gymnasium fell silent as 8-year-old Maya Rodriguez wheeled herself across the makeshift stage, her small hands trembling on the controls of her electric wheelchair. She clutched a handmade certificate in her lap, proof that she'd completed third grade despite every obstacle life had thrown at her. But as she looked out at the sea of faces in the audience, searching desperately for the one person she needed most, her eyes began to well with tears. The empty seat in the front row, the one marked with a small reserved sign, remained vacant. Her foster mother hadn't come. Again. What happened next would change not just Maya's life, but the heart of an entire community, proving that sometimes the most profound acts of love come from the most unexpected places. 3 months earlier, Maya had arrived at Riverside Elementary School with nothing but a worn backpack and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She'd been in the foster care system since she was 4, when a devastating car accident had taken her parents and left her paralyzed from the waist down. In the years since, she'd moved through 7 different homes, each placement falling apart for reasons that were never quite explained to her. Children have a way of internalizing rejection, and Maya had learned to build walls around her hut, even as she maintained that brave, fragile smile. Jake Morrison noticed her on her first day. He was volunteering in the school cafeteria as part of his commitment to stay involved in his daughter Emma's education. A widower for 2 years, Jake had thrown himself into being both mother and father to his 7-year-old daughter, attending every school event, volunteering for every opportunity, trying desperately to fill the void left by his wife's sudden death from an aneurysm. He watched as Maya sat alone at a corner table, methodically eating her lunch while other children played around her. Something about her isolation struck a chord deep in his chest. He recognized that particular brand of loneliness, the kind that comes from loss so profound it reshapes your entire world. "Mind if I sit here?" Jake had asked that first day, pulling up a chair across from her. Maya looked up, surprised. Adults usually pitied her or ignored her. This man did neither. He simply smiled and opened his own lunch bag. "I'm Jake. That's my daughter Emma. Over there, the one with the red sneakers attempting what I think is supposed to be a cartwheel." For the first time in months, Maya laughed. It was a small sound, barely more than a giggle, but it was genuine. That simple interaction became a daily ritual. Jake would happen to be in the cafeteria during Maya's lunch period, and they'd talk about everything and nothing: books, movies, the injustice of cafeteria pizza, Emma's increasingly elaborate art projects. Maya began to open up, sharing small pieces of her story, and Jake listened with the kind of attention that made her feel truly seen. Emma, naturally social and endlessly curious, soon joined their lunch table, and before long, Maya had her first real friend in years. The two girls became inseparable at school, and Maya found herself being included in playground games, birthday party invitations, and whispered secrets during library time. But every afternoon when Jake would pick up Emma and they'd wave goodbye, Maya would watch them leave with a longing so intense it physically hurt. She'd return to her current foster home, an overcrowded house where she was one of 5 children competing for attention from a foster mother who viewed the kids as income rather than individuals needing love. One rainy Tuesday in April, Maya's physical therapist didn't show up for their session. She sat in the school's front office, trying not to cry as the secretary made increasingly frustrated phone calls, trying to reach her foster mother. An hour passed, then 2. The school was emptying out, and Maya felt that familiar panic rising in her chest, the fear that she'd been forgotten again, that she didn't matter enough for anyone to remember. Jake appeared in the doorway, Emma's hand in his. He'd come back to retrieve a forgotten lunchbox and found Maya there, trying so hard to be brave. "I can take her home," he offered immediately. "I've got room in the van." The secretary looked relieved. After a quick background check confirmation, Jake had already cleared the volunteer screening process. Maya found herself being carefully helped into Jake's vehicle, her wheelchair secured in the back. The drive to Maya's foster home was short, but the conversation was long. Maya talked about her therapy, her dreams of maybe playing wheelchair basketball someday, and her terror that she'd never find a real family. Jake listened, his heart breaking. And when they arrived at the rundown house, with its overgrown yard and peeling paint, he understood so much more about Maya's carefully constructed walls. That night, Jake couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Maya's face, about the hope and fear warring in her eyes. He thought about his late wife, Sarah, and what she would have said. She'd always had such a big heart, always talking about fostering or adopting once Emma was older. He thought about his own capacity for love, about whether he had enough to give to heal a wounded child while still being there, fully for his daughter. He talked to Emma the next morning at breakfast. "How would you feel if Maya came to live with us?" "Not right away, but maybe someday." Emma's face lit up like Christmas morning. "Really, Dad? Really? She could be my sister." The process wasn't simple. Jake contacted a family lawyer, began the foster certification process, and reached out to Maya's caseworker. There were home studies, background checks, interviews, and mountains of paperwork. Maya didn't know. Jake didn't want to raise her hopes until he was certain it could happen. But the wheels were in motion. 2 weeks before the end of the school year, Maya's current foster placement fell apart. The foster mother was closing her home due to health issues, and Maya faced another transfer, her 8th move in 4 years. The caseworker, who'd been working with Jake through his certification, made a decision. Jake's home study wasn't quite complete, but he was close, and the caseworker had seen enough to know this was right. "Mr. Morrison, how would you feel about emergency placement? Just temporarily until we finalize everything." Jake didn't hesitate. "Bring her home." When Maya arrived with her single duffel bag containing all her worldly possessions, she couldn't believe what was happening. Jake and Emma had prepared the spare bedroom, painting it lavender, Maya's favorite color, and installing special grab bars and a lowered closet rod. Emma had made a glittery welcome home sign that shed sparkles everywhere. "Is this real?" Maya whispered, tears streaming down her face. "It's real," Jake said, kneeling beside her wheelchair. "And if you want, if you're happy here, we're going to make it permanent. You'll be part of our family, Maya, for real and for always." The next few weeks were an adjustment. Maya tested boundaries constantly, waiting for the moment when Jake would give up on her like everyone else had. She was difficult at bedtime, refused vegetables, had nightmares that left her screaming. But Jake stayed patient, consistent, loving. He learned to braid hair from YouTube videos. He mastered the particular technique Maya needed to transfer from her wheelchair. He read to her every night, even when she pretended not to listen. Emma was the sister Maya had always dreamed of, sharing toys, secrets, and an unshakable belief that Maya belonged with them. Slowly, Maya's walls began to crumble. She started calling the house home. She laughed more freely. She stopped flinching when Jake reached out to hug her. But one fear remained: the graduation ceremony. It was tradition for families to come, for parents to beam with pride as their children received certificates, marking another year of growth and achievement. Maya's foster mother had never attended a single school event. Maya was terrified to hope that Jake would be any different. "You'll come, right?" she asked him one night, trying to sound casual. "To graduation, it's not a big deal if you can't." Jake cupped her face in his hands. "Maya, sweetheart, I wouldn't miss it for the world. Emma and I will be in the front row, cheering louder than anyone." But on the morning of graduation, disaster struck. Jake's mother, who lived 2 hours away, fell and broke her hip. She was alone, elderly, and needed someone there immediately. Jake was torn, literally torn between 2 people he loved, trying frantically to find a solution. He called every friend, every neighbor, anyone who could sit with his mother at the hospital until he could get back from Maya's graduation. No one was available. At the school, Maya prepared for her moment on stage, her heart sinking as the reserved seat remained empty. She'd known it was too good to be true. She'd known better than to hope. The old familiar numbness settled over her like a blanket. She wheeled herself onto the stage when her name was called, accepting her certificate with automatic grace. And then she saw him, Jake, bursting through the gymnasium doors. still in yesterday's clothes, unshaven and exhausted. He'd driven 2 hours back from the hospital, speeding the entire way, leaving his mother in the care of a hastily arranged private nurse he'd paid triple the normal rate. He'd come. He'd actually come. Something inside Maya broke open. She looked at this man who'd driven through the night, who'd moved heaven and earth to be there, and found her voice for the first time in her young life. "Jake," she said into the microphone, her voice shaking. Will you be my dad? Like my real dad? Forever?" The gymnasium went utterly silent. Jake was already moving, walking toward the stage with tears streaming down his face. He climbed up and knelt beside her wheelchair. "Maya, nothing would make me happier. Yes, yes, I'll be your dad. Forever and always." The applause was deafening. Teachers were crying. Parents were crying. Emma rushed the stage and wrapped her arms around both of them, creating a tangle of family and love and homecoming. 6 months later, the adoption was finalized. Maya Rodriguez became Maya Morrison, daughter of Jake, sister of Emma, and member of a family who chose her just as much as she chose them. She kept a photo from that graduation on her nightstand, Jake hugging her on stage, both of them crying, both of them finally home. Maya never did learn to walk again, but she learned something infinitely more valuable. That family isn't about biology or perfection or ease. It's about showing up, even when it's hard. It's about love that persists through challenges. It's about a single dad who saw a lonely little girl and decided that his heart had room for one more. And sometimes that's the only miracle anyone really needs.